And there's our countdown. Jeremy, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Great. Thanks for having me. Stoked to chat.
It's my pleasure. Listen, you have been an inspiration to me. I've been following your work we talked about this last time. I think it's over 20 years now. And I was living overseas at the time and discovered your work on a tiny, tiny little Canadian website while I was in Japan and trying to look for surf photos from Canada, if you can believe there was such a thing in the early 2000s.
Coastalbc.com. I remember it well. I don't know if it's still around, but I remember submitting all the time.
Yeah, it was an incredible time, and it was kind of just before you broke. So maybe to kick things off, let me ask you, we'll get into your backstory a little bit, but I kind of want to jump ahead and just ask you, when was the moment you knew that you had been discovered?
Gosh, I kind of still feel like I haven't been discovered because I'm having so much fun shooting photos still. And I leave on a trip again tomorrow, and I look forward to every trip. And so I'm always trying to find ways to put my work in front of new viewers. And I think maybe not been found, but when I don't think there was any one moment. I just kind of kept rolling with my photography, and my first ever feature, actually, I didn't get credit and I didn't get paid for. So I knew at that point I really needed to love what I was doing to keep going with it. And along the way, all kinds of things happen to you as you're going along this path. But there was never really one moment. It's just been a journey. It's an ongoing journey, and connecting with people, new people all the time. It's fun. So I'm always looking to shoot something new, shoot new work, and connect with new viewers.
It's more like a gradient, isn't it? There's never really that one moment, standing on top of the Empire State Building. And
maybe for some people there is, but for me, I've always just enjoyed being outside with my camera, and that is really that's it for me, is enjoying what I do. So I'll say that probably over and over during this podcast, but I do what I do because I love to do it.
Yeah, I think that comes through in a lot of your work. If we go through your portfolio, your body of work, you're probably the top photographer on Canada's West Coast that's showcasing, the environment, the landscape, the animals, the people, the characters, everything that's out there. I don't think there's another person that's capturing it at the same, scale or velocity or aperture that you are.
I feel like there are, but maybe in my sort of niche world, I'm up there for sure because I've been doing it so long. I start to feel old when I think about how long I've been taking photographs. I've been working with some younger kids. I have a little photo gallery in Tofino, and some of the kids in there, I start talking about when I shot this certain photo or when I photographed this certain spot, and they were some of the time they weren't even born. Or other times I can remember vividly what it was like to experience this particular day, and they'll say, "Oh, I was 2 years old." So it makes me start to feel old. But it's just sort of it almost feels like another lifetime when I started taking photos. It feels like a really long time ago. So it's fun to look back and think about all those experiences.
Yeah, exactly. There is one photo in particular. I don't know if you can talk about it or not, but a big photo that I remember of yours is the cover of Surfer magazine. I can't remember the year or month, but it was this really epic shot. And I'm sure our listeners know the shot. They've seen it on newsstands or they've come across it on YouTube. And it's this kind of epic shot of Peter DeVries in a frigid, surf. I can't remember if it's a barrel or he's doing an air. And there's just these snow-capped mountains. Like, can you walk us through that shot and what went, like, the day? I don't even know where to begin.
Well, we actually spent the night. So we were camping. It was cold. It was winter camping. From what I remember, it was November, and I want to say it was 2016. But it may have even been before that. And the particular spot is about a 3-hour boat ride from my home in Tofino. And we boated up there. We spent the night. We woke up, and the wind actually wasn't the right direction when we woke up. There was swell, and there were a few kind of in between waves. And it was Raph Breweiler, it was Pete DeVries, and maybe Noah Cohen. But I think it was just Raph and Pete. And there weren't a lot of good waves. It was more just this epic background, snow-capped mountains, blue sky, and Pete lucked into one really good wave. And I submitted it to Surfer, and they chose that one. It was kind of unexpectedly. You never know when you're going to get a cover, and I'm thankful that was my only cover of Surfer magazine in print. And it's a cool memory to think back. It was really cold on the beach. I was standing there alone, and it was still that particular spot can get busy now with other photographers and other surfers. But I remember being there alone and just kind of the good old days.
The good old days, yeah, when it was just you and your, let's call it the Rat Pack, out there in the middle of nowhere, frigid Canadian ocean waters.
That whole Rat Pack scene started long before then. I mean, when I was I probably started hanging out at Chesterman's Beach with the Brewweilers when I was 10, maybe even before that. It was my second home. And they had a skate ramp at the beach at Chesterman's Beach. And then I think like way back, Vern would take us in his little boat, and I think it had a 30 or 40 horsepower engine. And we'd go an hour, 2 hours up the coast. And then Raph started borrowing his dad's boat, and we'd do trips. And then Raph finally bought a boat. He was older than us, a couple years older. So he bought a boat, and he was kind of the guy to go with. But I mean, shoot, that was like 2000 and probably 2006. No, even before then. No, probably 96, 97, 98.
96.
Like
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this almost predates the internet as we commonly know it.
I mean, back then I was only shooting film, and it was a 1 to 2 week process to even see my photographs. When I first started taking photos, I mean, my dad, when I was 13 or 14, my dad gifted me a camera, a Canon AE1. And I instantly took to it, and I started taking it on surf trips. I took it on to the skateboard park a lot. My family moved to town. And
that small one in Tofino, was that there back in the day?
I mean, gosh, the skate park used to be asphalt. So when my brother and I and our friends skateboarded there, if you fell, you'd have black you'd get scraped and you'd have black on your skin. So it was a different park, not the one there is today. But I would take my camera to the skate park all the time. I'd take it out to the beach. I'd take it on snowboarding trips, and it kind of just became a part of me. And as I got into it more and more, I started doing all of those sports a little bit less and less. And I was just had this passion to record, and it was also gratifying. I was working with my friends, and I'd go out and I'd shoot a roll of film, and it's not like now where you can see it instantly. It was kind of interesting when digital finally came around, how everyone wanted that instant gratification. But it was fun back then because you'd shoot a roll of film, a couple rolls of film, and you didn't know what you're going to get until you got the film back. And then everyone would come over and we'd look through photos. And I feel that is actually a part of sort of how I created my style, was with my friends looking at the images with me. And sort of, hey, we like this, we don't like this. And it was really fun.
Organic buddy to buddy process you went through. That was your feedback loop, was your group of friends.
Exactly.
So how did you go from, standing on the beach and, shooting your friends in the water in the skate park to being in the water to shooting from helicopters?
Well, pretty early on, I remember I was like, I want to be out there taking photographs of surfing. I want to be as close as I can be. So skateboarding and snowboarding, that was easy. You could get right up close to the action. But I remember thinking there was this one little cove that was where that's where I took all of my best photos, because I didn't have a long telephoto. I had a 200 mil lens as my longest lens. There's this little cove south of Chesterman's Beach, and it was almost like an amphitheater. So I could go all these different angles. But pretty quickly, I realized I didn't want to sit on the beach. I wanted to be swimming around with my camera and be a part of the action more. So my first housing was an Aquatech, and I still use Aquatech today. And so I bought an Aquatech housing, and I couldn't figure it out. It was leaking. And so So I finally figured out what was going on. But this was a camera housing where you had bolts on the back, and you bolted everything down. Or, well, first of all, you loaded your camera with either 24 frames or 36 frames, which nowadays you can get a card that will hold thousands of photos. So it was a completely different vibe. You put your camera in the housing, you'd clamp it all down, you'd swim out, you'd hope it didn't leak, and you'd shoot photos, and you'd be very selective, and you might spend a couple hours shooting 36 frames. But I just remember just being in the water and being able to sort of capture what I was feeling and be close to friends, and we kind of feed off each other, and it was just a lot of fun. I mean, we were kids, and I never ever thought that I would turn it into a profession at that point. It was just fun, and that was the bottom line. And so fast forward however many years, I still love what I do. I still get to work with friends a lot of the time, and I maybe it was because I did so many surf trips specifically, where on the coast of Canada, you put a lot of time in to score the right light, the right tide, swell direction, swell height, all that stuff. And you might get, like I used to tell people from California or wherever that we're visiting, we might have less than 5 days a year where everything comes together. In some years, it might be 1 day a year where it is the day. And they're just shocked. They couldn't believe, like, Southern California, it's sunny all the time, there's waves. And so for me, it was really about learning that you have to persevere, and yeah, it doesn't happen overnight. And I like the journey. I enjoyed the journey. And when we scored, and when we didn't, it was still a good time. It was still, you learned something. You'd get to camp outside, you'd see whales, I mean, where we grew up was a great spot to be an aspiring photographer.
Are you still in the water shooting as much today, or is it kind of shifted to more land, sort of wildlife photography?
I mean, I love photographing in the water, but it's not surf so much. It's my water housing is a part of my kit, definitely. But I have a sort of everything from the water housing and a wide angle lens all the way up to a 600 mil telephoto. And so depending on what I'm shooting, it can vary. I've been photographing a lot of fishing. That's my main passion right now is fly fishing. So when I do a fly fishing trip, I'll almost always bring my housing, and it's not swimming around with my camera all the time, but it is using that knowledge I have from swimming around in the ocean with my camera. And when I get to shoot surf, I'll definitely try to shoot in the water. It's a lot of fun to be out there and get smashed around. And I mean, yeah, it's a different experience. It's kind of hard to describe what it's like getting smashed around on the bottom holding a camera, but it's fun.
I've been there many times, but not holding a camera, so I somewhat know what you're talking about. So since we're talking about fish and being in the water, you have this one shot. To me, you know, I'm a layperson. It looks like a thresher shark.
Okay,
it might be something else off the coast. You know the photo I'm talking about?
It's a blue shark.
I love that one. That one needs to be on this wall, printed out.
Let's do it.
We'll just get it printed out and ironed it on or something. I don't know.
That was that wasn't that long ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We were offshore. We were on a tuna fishing trip. And I have a 20-foot long welded aluminum boat that my friend Matt Hill designed and built. And one day he's like, "Hey, let's go tuna fishing." So we went 75 miles off on this little boat, and we had
middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And I think I want to say we went 70 miles straight out because we only had a certain amount of fuel. So we went as far as we could go. We found the blue water. We found the tuna. And so the idea was we were going to try to spearfish for tuna. And we got to the location and we started seeing tuna porpoising. And so we chucked over a bunch of bait to try to draw the fish in. All we drew in was sharks. We didn't see a tuna. We saw sharks. And so one of the guys on the trip, Ryan's from South Africa, and he's like, "Oh, these are blue shark. Let's hop in." So we all geared up, threw our suits on, threw our masks on, and we started swimming around. And I remember most of the blue sharks are generally sort of 4 or 5 feet long. And then I remember there was this one, and I think Ryan said he thought it was a female. she came cruising in really slow, kind of came through the pack. And at this point, there were probably 15 or 20 blue sharks kind of cruising around where they'd smelled the bait. And
70 miles offshore,
yeah,
middle of nowhere, blue water.
yeah. And on that, and another part of this story I'll tell you after, but yeah, then this mama shark kind of cruised through the pack and extremely docile, and everything was really mellow. It was very calm, and to the point where sharks were coming up and sort of brushing against us. And I remember using my water housing actually to sort of push these sharks away. And she swam by me right next to me, and I sort of nudged her away from me, and then she swam in front of me, and I was shooting with quite a wide lens, so that's why that tail looks so big, like a thresher shark. And yeah, it's literally, that tail is probably a foot, or maybe a foot and a half in front of my lens. It's very, very close, so it looks quite distorted. But she just cruised along. And after that, I remember looking at my friend Matt, who built the boat, and he's like, "Are you feeling seasick?" I said, "Yeah, I actually am. I'm feeling kind of seasick." So we actually had to get on the boat to feel unsick. We've been on the ocean our whole lives and lying on the ocean flat and just kind of bobbing, and it made us seasick, which was really bizarre. So we actually hopped in the boat, and we felt better. But yeah, it was a magic day out there. It was completely calm, and yeah, just a day I'll never forget.
Amazing. So let's say I wanted to go buy that photo. Can I go to your gallery in Tofino and go pick it up? It's there as a print?
Yeah, I have a small gallery in Tofino. We opened August 18th, 2018. So it'll be 4 years this year. We've been open next to Storm Surf Shop in Tofino. And I've had an online store longer than that. It's the JeremyKoreskiGallery.com is the online store. And so, yeah, we have a ton of prints in there, and they're always revolving. So the shark photo might not be on the wall, but always bringing new work in, and replacing it with more new work. Hopefully, I try to replace the work as much as possible, because people do come and visit the gallery over and over when they come into town.
Right. Well, I'm going to try to bend your rubber arm and get a print off of you, because I just love that shot. They're all awesome, but that's one of my favorites. It's probably a top 2 or 3 for me.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. I mean, it was an experience for me. So that's cool to hear.
Cool, man. Cool. So we kind of heard about all the good stories, battling the cold, swimming with sharks. I got to get closer to my microphone, battling the elements, swimming with sharks. Sounds amazing, but you must have kind of the nightmare shoot locked away. You've repressed it as a memory somewhere. I would love to hear a funny story or just something you've experienced that we might not expect.
So back to the cover surfer, that trip, I actually hit a submerged piece of wood on my way home. And I remember not thinking about it, because I didn't realize I was going to get a cover. So we'd shot these photos. It was cold. I think GRAAPH was in his boat. I'm in my boat, and we're bombing home. And I hit this submerged log, and it stops the boat. And so it was substantial enough there where it had bent the prop. And so we kind of limp home. It was fine. The engine was running, but we get home, and it ends up being $1,000 bill. And that's about what I made from the cover. So it's never always the rainbows. And I mean, there's always something that happens out there. There are definitely more nightmare stories, but that just happens when you put yourself out there, and it's just a part of it. And that's why I said I've always loved the journey. It's about the photography, and my camera is a vehicle for me, for sure. It's put me into a ton of incredible, given me a ton of incredible experiences, and met incredible people, and had, in a small way, been given an intro to their life and into their world. But yeah, there's hardships along the way, and I don't think I've ever had a nightmare shoot, though. It's always just been sort of something will go wrong, and you sort of learn from it and you keep going. I mean, that's the number one advice I give for kids is, if you're not into this, if you don't enjoy taking photographs, do something else. Like, that should be number one always. And I've had people say before they like the idea of being a photographer, and the photography is kind of secondary, while photography should be the primary, and everything else will either happen or it won't. I mean, I feel like I've been lucky enough to have an eye, and I see the world a little bit differently than other people, and also have the drive to get out there and take photos. I love doing that as well. So there's a combination of things, but first and foremost, you got to love what you do. That's it.
Yeah. And I think you touched on that in the beginning of our podcast or discussion. You said, you started out there skateboarding, snowboarding, surfing with your buddies, fishing with them. And as you got more and more comfortable with the camera and realizing you had an eye, that, brought you more towards the camera than those activities, but you're still partaking in them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Always. And most of them you have to. I mean, I was on, I haven't partaken in rock climbing yet, but I've been on a couple fishing shoots this year. I've been on a rock climbing shoot. I've been on a snowboard ski shoot. And so a lot of them, I mean, one I had this shoot this year for a client, and we were in the mountains, and I for a second thought I was getting in over my head, where I had never ridden a skidoo. And so on top of it, it was some 850cc turbo scary thing. And we show up in the dark at the location. We have to ride 15 miles in the dark to this cabin we're staying in. And for a second, I thought maybe I was getting in over my head, but you figure it out. It's a lot of fun. And we had a great couple of days. And yeah, you're always learning something new. It's always a good time.
All right. Well, I look forward to the future Jimmy Chin collaboration.
Yeah,
I'll get you some ropes, helmet. Yeah. You could do it.
Yeah. It was an inspiration for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Let's switch gears a little bit. We've kind of talked about your career, your photography, some of your photos, your backgrounds, all awesome stuff. Hopefully it's inspiring to our audience and people are getting to know you a little better. Let's switch gears and talk about NFTs for a second, because I know this is a space that you're interested in collaborating with us on.
Yeah.
And we'll have more on that later. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on NFTs and photography, and maybe how those two worlds can play together.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to talk about when it comes to NFTs. I
kind of loaded you up there. Sorry.
Yeah. I became interested in NFTs actually through cryptocurrency. So a friend had been bugging me to look into crypto, check out Bitcoin. And so I did. And then at around the same time, NFTs started taking off. And it was just interesting in a way. I mean, I've had a lot of different thoughts on NFTs, but one is I'm no longer shooting film very often. My fine art work is more digital based. And so I like this idea of having a way to authenticate a digital file. And that can be a one-of-one file that somebody can own. And so like now I would say 5% of my work is film and 95 is digital. So that's something that drew me in. And so I don't know a lot, but I think it's something new. I'm becoming more and more interested in it. I think there is definitely a place for NFTs in the art world, 100%. And this is kind of a crazy time with crypto not doing great. But all the projects I'm interested in seem to just be sort of carrying along like they were before this crash. And so, yeah, I'm really interested also in bridging the gap between the in real life world and the computer world. So I have this small gallery, and I would love the opportunity to be able to have a couple of NFTs, maybe more than a couple of NFTs eventually, on the wall, digital display, and just start the conversation. But the project we've been working on, it actually starts out with an original tangible print that we're also going to create an NFT of. And so I'm excited to kind of bridge that world. And it's almost, I mean, I don't want to call the original in real life tangible print a utility, but it almost is. And so I don't know. I'm still trying to figure things out in my head. I'm new to this stuff too, but it's really exciting, and I think it's something new and it's something cool, and I just want to see where it will go. I love the idea of adding more utility to NFTs, adding if I mean, there's so many different directions you can go, but I would love to drop an NFT with some I don't know what's it called, the golden tickets or the Easter eggs or whatever you want to call them. And
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Some surprise in there. And maybe that's a trip to hop in a helicopter and pull all the doors off and go fly around and shoot photos, or maybe that's an overnight camping trip. I mean, it could be different all the time.
All right. Well, we're going to hold you to that, Jeremy. We're going to hop on a helicopter, pull all the doors off, and buzz some West Coast rainforest shooting. I don't know what it would look like, but it would be amazing, right?
No, of course, yeah. And so I'm also, I mean, so NFTs are in the digital space, but I love the idea of like I said, narrowing the gap between in real life and digital, and having experiences around those NFTs or within those NFTs in real life with people, and just connecting with people one-on-one. Ideally in the real world. I mean, that's where I owe everything to the natural environment. My whole career is being lucky enough to have grown up in Tofino and started a career in photography, and it kind of just went from there, So, I would love to be able to show more people that experience or those experiences outside and in the real world would be really cool.
Absolutely amazing. And that touches on what we're really aiming to do with GRAAPH, which is connect the digital world. Let's call it the metaverse, because that's everybody else is using that terminology as well, with the physical world, right? With IRL in real life. I think there's a real opportunity there. And I think one of the coolest things you can have is not just an NFT in your wallet, in your crypto wallet, but an NFT that has utility behind it. We're already seeing this in different NFT galleries and NFT collections. But one that's really, what's a good way to put it? I guess connected to the physical space, right? Whether that's a physical print that sits on your wall, or it's an experience that you can partake in with the creator.
Yeah. Or a combination.
Yeah. All the above. Let's tick all those boxes. Yeah. So Jeremy, I'm going to let you go in a couple seconds here. I want to switch gears again for the second time. I'm going to ask you some really fast questions.
Okay.
And let's see how quick you are.
Hit me.
All right. Nikon or Canon?
Canon, always.
Digital or film?
Gosh, there's a time and place for either, but mostly digital these days.
Favorite photo NFT platform?
GRAAPH looks like it's going to be amazing.
It will be amazing. So that's GRAAPH.xyz. It's a crazy name, and I got to remind myself that it's not a .com every single time. We'll have more on that later on a future podcast. But Jeremy, I want to thank you for taking the time to sit down and discuss your background with us and share a glimpse of what we have coming together with our audience.
Thank you so much. It's been fun.
My pleasure.
Take care, guys.